Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 27 of the Grappling Growth podcast with me, Joe Testori. Today's guest is Lachie Thompson, based out of Australia, mate. What an awful accent I've just tried to do there. But anyways, it is the early morning for me, or not so much. Anyways, on today's podcast, we talk about how Lachie went from KFC to running a multiple six-figure Facebook ads marketing agency. What strategies he would recommend to e-commerce brand owners who are looking to scale from 10K per month to 50K per month. This is a really technical podcast. He also talks about getting married next year briefly, what his plans are, and golf. So if you're looking for a real chilled but strategic podcast, then this one might be for you. Stick around.
As entrepreneurs, we all experience challenges in our business journey. I'm Joe Testori, and the Grappling Growth podcast is my attempt at documenting my entrepreneurial journey while building my brands. I sit down with fellow entrepreneurs, understanding how they grapple with growth. I hope you find value and enjoy.
Lachie, man, good to have you on the pod. It's been a little while since we first jumped on your podcast, probably about a year and a half. So I guess the first question I just want to ask, just to kick things off, is what does growth look like to you?
Yeah, good to be on here, mate. It's been a while since we've actually spoken, other than the Instagram DM. So yeah, a pleasure. So growth for me, for the past 5 years has just been trying to grow my business as much as I possibly can, acquiring clients and that sort of thing. But now it's probably more about taking a step back and actually systemizing processes and just dialing in habits and growing the team side of things as well. Rather than focusing on like the cash cycle, because like I've got that sorted at the moment for where I want to be. So now it's just dialing systems, habits, the team, that sort of aspect.
So you were just telling me previously, because we were talking about how long we've been in business for, and think around that. So you've been in business for 5.5 years. How long would you say it took you to go from the mental side of thinking about growth in a financial place? Because I think everyone who starts out thinks about the numbers and money, cover costs and basic living expenses, to getting to the point where you're thinking about other areas of growth, team, reinvesting.
Probably took, I would say, a good 2 years before I could just go to the supermarket and not worry about what I was spending, really. And then, like, if I had a problem with my car, like, I could pay for that and there'd be no issues. Like, I didn't have to save up for any of those expenses. So it probably took me a good 2 years to get to that stage where I was earning more than what I would working for somebody else. And then, after that, I sort of just started investing more in courses and education online and putting money where my mouth is, pretty much, and just going all in on the business rather than having to worry about, like, if next month's no good, then I'll have to go get a job to sort of like tip along, you know.
And within those first 2 years, how hard did you find it to keep going when you didn't know if you were gonna make money next month? And you're saying you're going to the supermarket, you didn't know if you could buy chicken or just stick to vegetables.
Yeah, so in those first 2 years, it wasn't like I come from like a tradie sort of background. I was never qualified in anything. It was just shit kicker job. So I was like, whenever I needed motivation, I just think back to, like, you go out on a cold morning, you need to pick up a bit of metal or do some woodwork or like roll up some piss-soaked carpet or something like that in like a shit box house. And I'm like, I'm not going back to that. I'd rather just sit on my laptop and try to make this work than go on to have to look for new jobs like that, because I'll probably never do that again if I can help it. So,
and I don't even know the context of the backstory, but before you got into running your own agency, what were you doing before?
So, like, when I was at high school, I started at KFC. And then worked there for 3 years, and that was probably like the best job I ever had, because all the boys from school were there and would just fuck around, so that was good. And then after high school, I got into a delivery driving job at Domino's that lasted 3 days, because then I went I got a full-time offer at a timber mill, like a recycled timber mill, and that
There's
was
going to be a fun story behind that.
nah. It's just good to say. And then timber mill. I lasted there for like a year and a half, maybe. That was just full-time work, just boring work. And then after that, I moved towns, and then struggled to find a bit of work. Did some night shift work, like installing like shelving at Kmart's and stuff. I did that for like a week or two. That was shit. And then moved into like flooring, so installing carpet and like vinyl planks and stuff. And if anybody knows me, I'm no good with my hands, so it's not a career fit for sure.
And when you were in that job, was that when you started your agency, Socials Slingshot?
So in Australia, like we had Easter, and then just the way the Easter lined up with the public holidays and stuff, we had a period of like 10 days that we got off. And then like I still had a job, I hadn't really started the business, I didn't have any clients, and I just said, look, I'm not coming back. Like this 10 days is just, I'm taking that, and then hopefully I'll be able to start some clients in that period. If not, like I'm not coming back here, I'll get a different job. So luckily I signed a couple of very small local clients to keep me tickling along. And then, from there, 5.5 years later now, so I'm glad I made that decision.
And what pulled you to the online world?
Just a YouTube ad told me I could make money online. So I think that's about how everyone starts. They just see someone flashing some money somewhere and be like, oh, that's cool. And then, like, I feel like I'm pretty lucky with the niche that I picked, or the service that I picked with Facebook ads, because it's been so reliable and consistent, well, for me anyway. Rather than like, I tried drop shipping and stuff like that, but you really got to find a winning product that actually fits, like solves a pain point or something, and it's just so competitive, and you need cash flow to get that started most of the time. I think service-based Facebook ads was a pretty good move. So I probably got lucky there. I only got brought a scam course once, so I feel like I have a pretty good success rate with courses.
Tell me the name of that course offer. Well, actually, call the people out.
I don't even remember it now, but I would know the bloke's face if I saw it. But it was like $3,000 when I was first starting, so like clients would have been paying me like $200, maybe $500 if I was lucky in the beginning per month. I paid him $3,000 and got absolutely nothing out of that course. And I was like, fuck. So learned my lesson pretty quick.
That's it, horses for courses. Sometimes you purchase something that absolutely changes your life, and other times you get it where it doesn't actually change anything. So for me, because we connected through Harry, I've always seen you as a guy who, and even before I remember jumping on a few calls with you, you've always had sound advice. How do you go from the guy who, let's just like face facts, you started doing this for money because you didn't want to work in KFC. You've gone from that and rolling up carpets to a guy who actually is passionate and cares about his clients' results, because I know you care about the results you get for clients and take pride in your work.
What was the question, sorry?
How do you go from the guy who just starts doing online marketing for money to the guy who actually cares about what he's doing for his clients?
I think so with the client side of things, it, like having just confidence, and that builds over time and actually generating results for your clients. And then you start to hear about like clients telling you how much impact you've actually had on their lives as well, whether it's moving their business out of their garage into a warehouse, or like we had to send you this screenshot after the call, but like I legit kept a client off the streets from prostituting himself the other day. That was the review he sent me. So obviously a joke, hopefully. But keeping the streets clean is good. So that was probably the best review I've had in 5 years. It was just a simple Slack message that made me giggle. But like even like families that have like just been struggling and then turn their business around, and then they're just at a happy place. Like I've had clients just leave because they're at a happy place now. They're generating 30, 50, 80K months, and they're just like, oh, we got kids now, we're settling down, we're happy with where we are, we don't need you anymore. So it's like, that's a cool story. It hurt at the time when I lost them, but I was like, that's success. It's like getting people from A to B.
And looking at it from a lens of a digital marketer, what commonalities do you see being the biggest problems as to why e-commerce brands can't scale?
I'll talk on a meta ad side of things because that's where my expertise really lies. Most people just have bad information, or because it's changing all the time, they can't keep up to date. So like when I first started, it was all about interest targeting, lookalike targeting, and now it's way more on the creative and copywriting side of things, right? And people, like a lot of the accounts that I audit haven't adjusted yet. So I audited like one a couple of weeks ago, but been working with her now, and she's generated good results. But she had like 200 active ads at a point, and she was only spending like $5,000 to $10,000 per month. And I was like, how are you even? How do you even have time to create that much by yourself? For one, and like this is just an absolute mess within her ad account. So in the first month, it was pretty much just cutting everything, like by 90%. And just consolidating the account structure and actually getting some spend so the account can learn about those particular creatives and copy to deliver better results. But yeah, most people just have bad information, bad setups. Most people don't have their pixel installed correctly, so the tracking isn't even working as it should. People don't know how to actually customize their columns in the ads manager either, so that's a very big problem, especially for brands under, say, that 20K a month mark. They just don't know. A lot of boosting posts still, which is unbelievable to me. I'm like, why are you still doing that? But they're my favorite audits because you can be like, oh, look, bro, you spent like $8,000 on booster posts, you generated $200. Like, that's no good. And then like you turn on the conversions ads in a weekend, and it's like double, triple their sales. I was like, should have come to me a while ago, buddy.
Well, that's a good little insight there, which I think a lot of people can take away who are running e-commerce brands. And I know we get a few people who do run brands and equally agency owners, but just business owners. And I really think there's been a big shift, even in service-based businesses, into what does your creative look like? Because our attention is just shrinking. I remember I saw a study that from the year 2000, the average human's attention span was 12 seconds. Now, it's 4 seconds. So it's reduced by 66% in the space of a quarter century. So what's that going to be like by 2050? We're probably going to get down to 2-3 seconds if we're lucky. So these TikTok videos, and even a client of mine sent me a video this morning saying, do you think this would work well as an ad? And my first intuition was, no, it's just way too slow what they're doing here, the transitions. It was just so just the voice, the tonality. And I think for a lot of business owners or people who are trying to get good at creatives, they could literally just watch Wolf of Wall Street and just listen to how Jordan Belfort uses, Leonardo DiCaprio imitating or playing Jordan Belfort, how he uses his tonality and goes up and down and just that sales pitch. But so much creative that I see is just so monotone. It's like, come spend a day with me. Why would I want to spend a day with you? You just sound so boring.
Yeah, it's super hard for brands to get on and actually get in front of the camera. But my favorite clients out of all other ones that actually have the confidence to go out there. And like when I first started doing short form content, even for myself, like I couldn't record voice note DMs. Like I couldn't listen to my voice. Like that took me a good 6 months to get over. And then you've got to have all your TikToks, like your first 10 TikToks, you're going to be posting in your group chat. You're going to get absolutely flamed by the boys saying, what the fuck are you doing? And then like over time, you end up posting for 2 years and you end up don't even caring what you put out there. And then like it grows over time, obviously. The more you do it, the better you get at it, like with anything.
I remember when I first started posting content, this is one of my oldest childhood friends. I've known him since I was 4, and he'll be proposing to his girlfriend soon. She's not listening to this, so it's fine. But I remember he was like, "Oh man, yeah, I've seen your content. It is so cringe." And I just thought to myself, I actually don't care what you think, because not to be obnoxious, but what you're doing in life and what I'm trying to do in life, we're just so polar opposites. So respectfully, I'm not going to take your advice, because it's not advice that is about what I'm trying to do. If you gave me advice about something else, maybe sport, then yeah, I'd take it, because it's something that you're okay at. But you don't always need to take advice from people based on their opinions, and a lot of it is just to achieve what you want to achieve, you have to do things that you weren't typically going to do before. It's just about getting outside of your comfort zone. I guess, and you made this point just prior, so you're 26 now. What advice would you give to not just your 20-year-old self? What advice would you give to that boy who's at KFC bagging chicken in boxes?
Probably take a bit more chicken home. So that was one of the big benefits. But now, probably, like, obviously, I was just doing that while I was at school. But like, if you could go back in time, you'd be like, get into online money as quickly as possible. Some sales job, work for somebody else, learn some ropes, rather than just saying, fuck it, I'm not going back to work and trying to figure it out there and then. It's probably not the best idea. But yeah, just probably try to get a bit stricter in your routine, especially getting started. It's like, it took me like 2 years to find a routine that was sort of acceptable. So yeah, it takes a while.
Why do you think it took you 2 years to find that routine?
Probably no direction. Like, I didn't talk to many people like during that period. Like, you can have those conversations in the DMs and stuff like that, but it's not like I was seeing a business coach once a week telling me, like, what are you doing? Like, these are the numbers you should be doing, like the outreaches, the conversations that you're having. Oh, that's not how you'd speak on the sales call. Like, I just didn't have any of that guidance. So I had to learn that over years. And I'm like, okay. And then it's like all the content that you're watching as well, all those little motivational tips, those tips and tricks about procrastination, how to organize your day. Like, it just stacks, like, day on day, really. So it does take a while to sort of find that groove, which can be accelerated if you get the right people in your circle.
I really think that you could give someone the exact information that they need to be successful, but if they're just not at a mental maturity level, it just doesn't matter. And I think you see this a lot with children and teenagers. I used to be a football coach, and I would coach kids. I didn't do too many sessions, and I would also look at myself when I was playing football, or soccer as it be called in other countries. But there'd be so many times where you'd see other guys who were talented. Someone, a coach, would be saying what to do, and they just wouldn't get it. And then years later, they start to get it. And I just think at times we just, especially men, boys, we're behind the curve compared to women, females. And it doesn't matter what information you give people, until they want to take it in, they won't. And I think for a lot of guys, it's a case of, your life would be better if you woke up at the same time every single day, if you didn't go out and drank piss with the boys, or you got KFC after a night out, or whatever, but we still choose to do it. And I think there's something beautiful about that you can look back and you could say, this is what I'd say to my 20-year-old self, or this is what I'd say to Lachlan or Lachie working at KFC. And even if you were to give that person that roadmap, they just still wouldn't follow it. Because I try to give advice to my younger brother, and I can see he listens to it. He's like, yeah, all right, bye. And then he'll go off and do his own thing.
Yeah, it definitely takes a while. Even like talking about sport, like, obviously I played a lot of sport growing up, hockey, cricket, like everything really, whatever, through school, and then even after school as well. And now I'm pretty into my golf, but probably golf's like the most dedicated I've probably been to a sport, just because I'm doing it out of, like, I was playing sport as choice in the like during school and just after school, but now I'm like, I actually want to improve. I want to get good. Like, I want to be better than all my mates. So I'm watching all these videos on TikTok, Instagram Reels, and then actually going to the range, actually having like, not just going there to stuff around and hit balls or kick the footy or whatever, but actually concentrating on practicing to getting better, not just the natural talent that I had when I was younger, sort of thing. So it's like, yeah, same. I don't really know where I'm going at that point, but it's like, it is a different mindset. Like, now I'm like actually trying to actively listen and learn when it comes to golf, whereas back then I'd just go out and play and I was decent at it. So it's not like I didn't need to practice, like I'd just be good. So
You just thought you were a happy girl when you just walk up to it and just absolutely batter the ball.
Nuke it.
So for me, I've been practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the last 6-7 years, on and off, just through COVID, injuries. And I would say maybe over the last, I started back up at the start of this year after recovering from my back injury. But even the way how I'm trying to look at stuff and the questions I'm asking my professor, they're so different to what I was thinking about before. And I think you see a lot of, I can just talk for men because that's the demographic that I hang around with 99% of the time. But you can see amongst men that I think when you get into your late 20s, early 30s, you start to shift your behaviors, and maybe it just comes down to maturity. You hear a lot of times professional MMA fighters, they'll be in their 30s saying they're doing way better than they did in their 20s, even though they haven't got the same physical capabilities as they had before. But it's the way how they look at stuff with all of that experience and that build up, and they can take that information. And I listened to a very good podcast yesterday, Mike Thurston's First Things First. He had a guy called Ross Edgley on, who's just an absolute machine. And Ross Edgley said, if you did a bodybuilding competition with Mike Thurston, who was 20, versus the one who's now, and I think Mike Thurston's 33, 34, who would win? And Mike Thurston said, I would kill that guy who was 20 with all of the genetic superiority compared to now, because the approaches that I would take to everything that I would do now compared to that guy. And it's probably the classic saying of hard work beats talent and talent doesn't work hard.
Yeah, same for me in the gym. Like even like I've been going for quite a few years now, and like just the mindset that I have now to actually get in there and actually have a consistent routine, and at the same time every morning and actually go, compared to back then. I'm like, sometimes I go in the morning, sometimes I go at night, and it was just like go out partying, drinking piss with the boys. So there was just no consistency, no routine, no thought about anything. It was just like, oh, I've got to go to the gym now, I'll go do that. But now there's a bit more thought that goes in. It's like, maybe I shouldn't have done that pizza if I'm going to go for a 5K run tomorrow or whatever it is. So it just makes it a lot harder. Or even if I do indulge, then like I punish myself. It's like that run the next day is definitely not as easy when you've got a pizza sitting in your gut. So now I'm probably more likely to eat less of it or just put it off altogether.
Yeah, I also think you realise that success doesn't come down to making drastic changes all the time. Success quite largely comes down to making small habitual changes over and over again. It's kind of like progressive overload in the gym. You're not going to go from bench pressing 60 kilos to 100 kilos in the space of a month unless you're just Francis Ngannou. But it's something that if you just consistently work it, improving by 2.5 kilos, you can get to it. And a lot of it is just science and it's numbers. And it's kind of like growing a business. It's you know with your business coach that when he was looking at you, he's like, well, you want to get to 10K per month, but you're not contacting a quarter as many businesses as you need to. It's unless you're going to get lucky, it's nigh on impossible. And then you start to do the basic things and you're like, actually, this makes sense. Why didn't I do this a few years ago? But again, I just don't think, especially a lot of boys, they've got the mental maturity to understand things at the time. And that's partly why I wanted to start this podcast, is something that I can look back on and maybe look at my journey myself when I'm older, and also give something to a younger audience who might be thinking, I'm a bit lost and a bit directionless. How do I look to improve? So I guess a question to you is, I know that you mentioned you've read a few books, scientific advertising, breakthrough advertising possibly, and podcasts. So business podcasts, let's remove that. What podcast are you listening to right now to diffuse in your downtime?
Really, it's just about AFL, so which is like a sport in Australia that we play here in Australia. So I'm super into that. All the boys, like, we have fantasy going in the group chat and stuff like that. So really, when I'm in like listening to podcasts, it's trying to switch off from client work. Honestly, it's like there's so many notifications that goes off like on my desktop all day, and even on my phone. Like, I've got that muted now, thank God. But even like I'm just always stressing about work. It's like, oh, has a client messaged me? Like, has they approved that content? Has that sale gone live? It's like you never switch off. So I'm trying to do that as much as possible where I can with podcast or going out and playing golf or doing whatever, right? But it's like near impossible to switch off. So there is some business stuff that gets thrown in there every now and again when it pops up in the YouTube algorithm or Spotify. But yeah, mostly I try to keep it to entertainment purposes.
How do you keep yourself ahead of the curve with regards to getting better as a marketeer and strategist?
So I actually jotted down what I do on a daily basis last week, because I'm trying to, like, I'm going to Vietnam soon, so I've got to leave a bit of the workload to the team. So I actually started jotting down what I was doing on a daily basis, and pretty much I start every day by just watching YouTube or TikTok, but it's like actual educational side of TikTok, like business side of TikTok. So or YouTube is a big one. So I limit myself to 30 minutes in the morning, but it's just pretty much catching up on the latest creators that I like to follow and just seeing what their insights is. And then that's pretty much it.
And what are you seeing is the biggest trends and shifts right now that people can implement within their businesses?
Probably the creative aspect side of things. So right now, I'm not sure about the listeners, but my feed is like static ad templates or video templates everywhere right now, but nobody's actually using them. So like you can get 100 static ad templates that could fill up your ad campaigns for like 6 months, but nobody's doing that. And most of the businesses that I'm talking to that are spending under $5,000 per month per se, like they're just not doing anything creative wise. Like they probably have something running from 6 months ago and they're like, oh, I don't really know how it's working. I see some sales, so it must be working. But really, when you actually go in and customize those columns and look at how much they've actually spent versus return, they're like, oh, I probably should be doing something extra. So there's so many resources out there, but I think most people just don't understand how good or ineffective their marketing is. Because there's been audits that I've done recently where it's like, what the hell? Why aren't you spending more? It's like, you've got good results. I'm like, oh, really? I didn't know. So yeah, it comes down to understanding the numbers, actually putting some time and effort into learning something like Facebook ads, for example. Like, I just don't think most people just watch a tutorial on YouTube and then set and forget it, because like business owners are super busy. Like there's so many other things going on during the day, whether it's packing orders, the kids are screaming, the dog's barking, and then all of a sudden you've got some call with some manufacturer. It's like there's only so much time in the day.
Yeah, I mean, the eCom brand owners that I work with, there's just so many interdependencies within their business compared to most other businesses. Just trying to get their cogs down to a profitable price point. Manufacturers. I mean, I remember when what's the river in the Suez Canal, when that was blocked up a couple of years ago, how that astronomically increased shipping costs for clients they were working with in Europe and also the US. It was ridiculous. And I don't think many of the businesses have recovered from that. And I think I guess they're trying to look at where could they place another canal in the world as a strategic point to help alleviate and reduce shipping costs. But they've done the Panama Canal and the Suez Canal now, so there's not many other areas where they can look to put somewhere in place there. What do you see, in your opinion, being a few of the biggest challenges for e-com brands in the next few months in 2025?
Probably what you just spoke about then, the product margins. Like a lot of people like getting eaten by shipping right now, and they're not like getting wrecked by the manufacturers. Like they just haven't spoken to them or negotiated better deals, and like they're probably gone from 10K a month to 50K a month, and with all their order quantities and stuff, they haven't reassessed like whether they could get cheaper costs from the manufacturer or whatever. So that's probably a big part of where a lot of people are facing troubles and actually pulling profit out of the business rather than just generating revenue all the time. And then from the Facebook ad side of things, obviously we're coming into Q4, so it's going to get hella competitive. And then, as I said earlier, most people just aren't making enough content. Most brands are sitting in the background, not making any content whatsoever. Like I have clients that don't post organically at all on their Instagram feeds. They have like 200 followers, but they're doing $10,000, $20,000 months, right? They're happy chilling there. So these are the smaller coaching clients that I help with their Facebook ads spending less than $3,000 per month. And they're happy sitting there, but to go to that next level, like they're going to need to start posting content all the time and just refining that process. That's where a lot of businesses get stuck, or they see a business come to the market and they're like, oh my God, how'd they grow so quickly? It's because they're grinding the content, like content. It's like you can never get enough of it.
Yeah, even small things that I've tried to implement with my own content strategy and what I've recommended to clients is what I've looked at is making multiple variations of the opening hook and then having the exact same body of the ad. That way you keep the 80% of it the same, and then you're just testing the first 20%, or it could even be the first 5% of an ad, and then that way you've got that dynamically changed. Because there's a real prevalent concept that I always focus on with businesses, whether it's cold emails or creatives, is a single point of failure, which is an engineering term, which means anything after that point doesn't matter. So if in a machine factory or whatever, if one cog is broken, the rest of the system, the rest of the chain won't work. It doesn't matter how good the rest of it is. If you can't get past that first constraint, everything else is irrelevant. And I really try to hone down on that with clients. And it's just, I guess it's an educatory piece where it's understanding the justification as to why that's so important for them. And those who do get it, that's it, that they can just create so much content at a far more economical point, but also at scale. So it just makes it a lot easier there. I guess a question more intrinsically to you. You've been in the game now for 5.5 years. What was, and I'm sure we've had a lot, what was a real standing moment in business where you felt like just packing it all in, where things just weren't working?
Probably when I lost a couple of big clients, when like I generated them too good of results and they could afford a bigger agency, so that was my fault. So I lost a couple of clients through that. Sorry, I thought I just lost you. So I lost a couple of really good clients, solid clients, long-term clients through generating the insane results. So they moved on to a bigger agency because I'm just focused on Facebook ads. I didn't really have the network around me to say, hey, here's your email person, here's your Google person, here's your website person. So that really hurt. And then shortly after that, I lost a couple other clients that were really long-term clients as well, just due to having kids, just getting to a stable point. It's like, and then I didn't have that cash flow coming in, so I was like, oh fuck, how am I going to pay rent? How am I going to put fuel in my car? It's like it got low. At that point, I was like, oh fuck, I might have to start looking at a job. So I started like looking at Seek, what sort of marketing roles were around. So like I was looking, but then fortunately I was like, I don't want to work for somebody else. So I just kept going and grinded through that, and then come out the other side now.
I guess it's a paradox when you achieve such good results with clients that they leave. And I had one of my best clients leave at the start of the year, who I worked with for 2.5 years, and he messaged me and I was like, there's something up here. He's like, look, I wanted to tell you on the phone because I really like you, appreciate you, but I'm taking this in-house now. And we started with them, one of my best case studies. We went from 7k a month to 50, 60k months consistently, and we were only spending £4,000 or £5,000 a month on ads, email marketing taken care of, and it was just one of those things where you thought, you know what, I'm so proud of what I've done because I've achieved such great results. But caveat is, I guess that's the thing with business. It's nothing's forever, and you have to realise that you've got to always keep your pipeline consistent. How long have you been running your podcast for?
Probably it's going, like I started to get TikTok like memories or whatever they call them on TikTok of like previous guests popping up like from a year ago. So it'd probably be coming up a year in a couple of months.
And what was the inspiration behind starting that? Because I know I enjoyed coming on there, and it was something that you've been on there for a while.
Just pretty much just talking to people. So obviously my business was a bit slower, so it's like, oh, I'm going to start the conversations up. So just having different conversations with different people, whether it was somebody like yourself or an actual e-commerce owner, then that was just a way for me to, one, talk and have conversations, but two, also an easy way to get content out. So with Riverside, it's obviously an amazing tool. You can just clip it up super easy and get a whole bunch of content out really nice and easily. So
yeah. Podcasting is
it's much easier when somebody else does the talking and then you clip them up, so you don't always have to come up with the ideas.
Definitely. So I've got a question for you from the internet. Now it reads, a fellow entrepreneur asked, how would you recommend a brand goes from 10k per month to 50k per month? And I guess this is from a meta perspective.
Yeah, so one is obviously nailing a product and solving a problem. That's the biggest. Like, if you don't get that right, you're never going to be able to scale. So, and you never get to know until you test it out, but you'll usually start to see some signs around like that 5 to 10k a month mark, whether it's going to work, like whether you're crushing it or you're really struggling through that period. And then sort of once you sort of know that you're possibly onto a winning product, then it's just about creating content. Like that, those businesses that are generating 10 to 20k, I just don't think they realize how much content they need. Like it could be as simple as just a couple of B-roll clips onto an Instagram template or something like that. Just getting content out there and actually analyzing what is working, what's not, and then going back and trying to improve on that all the time. And then from a meta ads perspective, obviously once you get that content rolling, you're testing it through the organic platform and stuff like that. You can start to pull out your winners from there, put that into your advertising, put some more spend behind it. And then once you start to see some results from there, maybe you get it 2-3x maybe. You can start reinvesting those profits and then hire somebody like myself to come in and be like, okay, cool, this is working, this is what we need. Then you get to a 4x and you're like 5x, 6x, and you're like, okay, we need to spend more now. So that's sort of the process that I'd be looking to go through with most people.
I think that's excellent advice. I am working with a client who I've tried to speak to about their expectations from ads. Now, they're achieving a 3.5 return on ad spend, and their target is a 6. And I've tried to reinforce multiple times that it's just so it's just unrealistic, and even to put that as a target. But the margins for them, they're probably working at a 20% margin, all costs in, But for me, it's a case of now we should scale your ad spend, because we've got a solid base of 3.5 return on ad spend. Now we can focus on scaling the budget, consolidating what's working, because we know what's working, and then really focusing on lifetime value, returning customer rate. That's where a lot of the growth is going to be in. And I think a lot of business owners, they fixate on return on ad spend, but they don't focus on what they can do in the back end to keep that returning customer rate going. Because I think that there's a view of, to grow my business, I need to get more customers in, which is true, but there's other ways to grow businesses, increasing the average order value, increasing the return rate of businesses, which I think you can look at those two pillars together in conjunction with getting people through the door. That's where you can really scale.
Yeah, it's a tough position to be in when you've got a client with such low margins, because obviously, one, they need sales, but obviously they need the cash to spend on advertising as well, which is not a nice point to be, honestly. So it's not great, because you're like, from your side of things, you're like 3.5x. Like for most clients, that's good. Like you're looking to put more spend in, but because whether it's like picking their product, that just might be the industry where they have to run on 20% margins, and they need to be negative for a couple of years, and then all those returning customers finally kick in. But that's sort of like praying to the gods and hoping. So yeah, that's a tough position to be in.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it comes down to, I think they've got about a 60% margin on their product, but you factor in all the costs of the acquisition costs from ads, agency fees, and just everything else altogether.
Yeah.
And then they discount their product. And I just think, the last thing you want to do is discount a product which is at that level. If anything, we should be scaling the ad spend, so then that way all of your fixed costs, portion of what they take up from overall sales, is reduced, because you're working on variables such as ads and so on and so forth. So there's a lot to unpack there. Lachie, thank you for your time. Where can people find you, and what's kind of in the world of, I know you've got a lot of things coming up, Vietnam, a wedding next year, which is going to be super exciting. What does your world look like for the next year or so?
So going to Vietnam, getting married, that's pretty much about it. Lots of client work. Obviously, we got Q4 coming up, so going to be hectic through there. Hopefully make some good cash myself during that period, and probably get some downtime January-ish as well. Probably more wedding planning, trying to pay for that. And then that's pretty much it. Yeah, probably golf, just as it has been. We're talking about doing a New Zealand trip, but yeah, that's just sort of in the group chat. Hasn't got out of there yet. So, yeah.
Stone's far away from you guys, so
yeah, short flight over. Just keeping chugging along with the clients, generating them results. Everything will look after itself.
amazing. And where can people find you?
Main platform I use, Instagram, Lachie Socials Slingshot, and yeah, that's about it. Don't look at my website, I didn't fix that. So go to my Instagram, it's pretty good content on there. You'll see Joe's pretty face if you go scrolling deep enough. So that's my main platform.
Amazing. Listen, Lachie, appreciate your time, and we'll share everything to the social platforms.
No worries. Thanks so much for having me.
Take care.